And welcome back. I love being in a place where I get to throw from myself back to myself. It's like the loneliest game of Frisbee. But at the casting booth, I am joined by none other than Mr. Rotterdam. How are you doing this fine evening?
It's awesome, Sean. I'm so happy that you invited me to come out over here today, here in Santa Monica, meeting all these lovely people. I've watched the After Hours Gaming League in the past, but I've never had the chance of actually visiting one of the events. So when you asked me to come by, I said, like, yeah, of course. And I must say, so far, it's been even more fun than I thought it was going to be. All these people are so relaxed, so laid back, but still really passionate about StarCraft. So I think it's going to be really fun.
I mean, like, getting a chance to talk to so many of them about what their practice routines were like throughout the entire season. And then the fact that, you know, National Instruments brought a bird, and then Microsoft improvised by putting a Windows hat on Ben. It was perfect. It's exactly the attitude, because remember, we take fun very seriously.
And that's the only way to do it, Sean.
Of course. And now, of course, in this finals, we have Microsoft versus National Instruments, which I honestly think is, you know, it's one of the big hype matches to start off the season, and now it's the way that we get to conclude it at the end.
Yeah, I went over the statistics a little bit, as you provided me with a lot of information throughout the entire regular season, and it looks really even on paper. Like, even though Microsoft is the defending champion, so normally you'd say, you know, if a defending champion makes it back to the final, you'd say they're the favorite, but they already lost against National Instruments once, and the matchups on paper, they all look so even among the players that are playing against each other. So there's a good chance that this one is going to go to distance, and they will see a couple of really fun StarCraft matches.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the story of Microsoft's consistency. Of course, as we talked about in the interview, they've gotten to the finals 3 times. This is their 3rd time, hoping to get 3 championships. Not quite in a row, but still extremely impressive nonetheless. But National Instruments is one of the only teams in the history of the AHGL to have gone undefeated throughout the entire tournament season. And, you know, I want to ask a little bit about your thoughts coming into a match like this. We always see this story in tournaments, the sort of seasoned, consistent player versus the sort of new up-and-coming team. Like, how would you sort of compare and contrast the strengths of these?
I would say, even though National Instruments won the regular season, you still have to give the edge to Microsoft just because it's the defending champion, and you could always say that the regular season is just the regular season and the playoffs is where it truly matters. But I think that you can go into this as like, hey, nothing to lose, and at the end of the day, it is fun, it's StarCraft. But these guys, they all seem to take it pretty serious. I don't think they put too much pressure on themselves, but they just really want to win. And I met actually the guys earlier today, and just had a chat with all of them. I think they can do it. I really think they can.
That would be really. Of course, everyone loves the underdog story. Who doesn't? Now, I want to keep in mind that before and after these matches, as you saw in League of Legends, we have some of these polls that we're taking a look at, trying to get your opinions that matter the most. Now we have these 2 finalists coming up soon. Let's introduce them, and let's bring up a little bit of these awesome polls to involve the audience. Just want to keep your brain tuned to HGL.tv. Let's go ahead and introduce our first team, Team Microsoft, who has just been on an absolute tear since the first time they entered into the league.
That is one hell of a team picture, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, look at them. They're all standing dapperly. They have the pink backlight. And, you know, again, they have been supporting the Against Malaria Foundation for years now. I mean, the fact that you know, malaria is a disease that still affects so many people, and the fact that they are contributing so many resources and, you know, bringing so much awareness here. I'm really thrilled to see them supporting Against Malaria today.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most beautiful things about the entire league. Well, that is one hell of a team picture as well.
You know, that's actually the offices over at National Instruments.
I like that the Marine is there hanging out as well. He's a crucial part of the team.
And of course, you know, as they were talking about a little bit, that, you know, they support the Capital Area Food Bank. Again, they're a Texas-based team, and supporting in their local area, always good to see people involved in their local communities. Now, even though we saw some silly photos, this is Team Epic, who is now going to be part of our very first poll, which is, which team do you think has the best team photo? I mean, this is like professional quality photography.
This looks intimidating. I wouldn't want to play these guys in StarCraft, Sean. They look way too good.
This is Team Groupon, and this, again, I think, is a sensational piece of photography, Roddy.
I think the photographer was breathing very heavy when he took this picture.
Yeah, that's actually the largest cat in the world. that help support.
I wonder what he was
Groupon.
looking at, Sean. What do you think? I think he had his eye on those cupcakes that Blizzard brought over.
Oh my God! You know, that's one thing I do want to bring up. Blizzard kindly brought Sprinkles cupcakes here, which I don't even know how you're supposed to approach. It's like trying to bite into a planet. You just kind of it's the hugest thing, and at no point in time, at no point do you actually look like an acceptable human being. But you don't care because it's so good. I had a red velvet cupcake. I strongly recommend them. Let's go ahead and take a look at the poll that we were just talking about. Again, which team has far and away the best StarCraft 2 photo? National Instruments in first place, besting Microsoft in second. Is this foreshadowing for today, Roddy?
I don't know. It must be the Marine in the corner. It must be that Marine that was just reading the newspaper. That's giving the edge to them. Otherwise, I cannot explain this poll. I actually really like the picture of Epic. I'm a little bit sad about this. I thought those guys had one hell of a picture.
Yeah,
I mean, great.
It's one of those things where, again, they had their swords. It was the high-res photo. But at the end of the day, everyone has always wanted to spend some jacuzzi-style time in a spawning pool.
I'm not too sure about that.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at the bracket to see sort of how these players got here today. Because, again, we saw some, I guess I'd call it expected, reasonable kinds of results. Normally, the higher-ranked team defeated the lower-ranked team. However, National Instruments barely managed to edge out the Googleisks, who are actually the 12th ranked team, narrowly winning 4-3.
But they had one hell of a run, though, throughout that right lower bracket, defeating a couple of way higher seed teams. So I guess they were there for a reason. Those guys were hiding strategies for the playoffs, Sean. That's just what it is.
I think probably the biggest story coming into this is that Microsoft versus BlackBerry 4-0, Microsoft versus Raytheon 4-0 versus IBM 4-0. And the only team that seemed to give them trouble is National Instruments, the team that they're facing in the grand finals.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the players as well, and of all the players throughout the entire show, a lot of those players are very evenly matched. Even their regular season records are quite even, sometimes slightly in favor of Microsoft and sometimes slightly in favor of National Instruments. So this has everything for a pretty epic final.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about the first match then. It will be kicking things off on a Zerg versus Zerg. The first map will be Way Station. And, you know, Way Station is a map that I think has one of the most unique feels of any map in the entire, actually in a long time. The fact that you have that backdoor island expansion. I mean, walk me through a little bit of how this map plays out in a Zerg versus Zerg matchup.
Well, the most interesting about this, Sean, is that this map can be played out in two completely different ways. It can be a relatively small map if you spawn at 1 o'clock and 7 o'clock, but it can also be an extremely large map if you spawn, let's say, cross at 4 and somewhere between 10 and 11. It makes a world of difference because the smaller positions, you could say a rush strategy can be very good, especially in ZVZ, as we all know that this is a matchup where you often see a couple of early game rushes. But if they spawn in the opposite locations, then suddenly this turns into one of the largest maps in the map pool. So a player who normally likes to take his time and sit back and just macro up is actually going to have a much better time at Way Station than when you get the closest spawn locations.
Yeah, I mean, this is the sort of thing where I think that coming up with creative builds that are a little bit more unusual can definitely be a big benefit. I mean, most of the time we like to say, well, don't do anything too tricky. You want to stick to what you've practiced, but of course, given the fact that this is a league-style system where these two teams have known for a long time which maps they're going to be playing on and what those matchups are. So they've had a good opportunity to prepare. And again, this is a map where I just love the strategies that you can come out with.
Yeah, and it's still so tricky because Way Station, you basically need to prepare two completely different playstyles because the playstyle that is going to work on the large rush distance might not necessarily keep you safe against an early game rush when you spawn closer to each other. So even though you know the map, you still don't really know the map because it plays out completely different. Like the tile set is the same, but the whole idea of the map, everything changes up.
Well, our first map is going to be Memcopy from Team Microsoft, one of their best performing players, going 11-2 throughout the season, versus Straylight, who's put up some solid games, but overall has a 3-2 record. So in this circumstance, do you favor the sort of Straylight's kind of kookier builds, a little bit more unusual, or do you favor more of Memcopy's strong, stable play in this?
You have to like Memcopy's record over here. That looks really solid. That's almost over an 80% win record. That's not easy to achieve. But then again, a ZVZ is already a very susceptible matchup or a very vulnerable matchup. One thing can completely catch you off guard, and it can be game over. So we shouldn't even look too much into these statistics. Above all, it's going to come down to what perhaps our underdog Strelak has prepared, and maybe he gets lucky with the spawn allocations. Maybe it's exactly what he wants. And this is definitely a map where you can have some tricks up your sleeve. And I really can't wait to see what kind of builds they will bring out, because I think it's going to be fun for us one way or the other.
Well, even though Roddy and I are hiding back in the studio with the players, I want to let the audience, who has been so good about being so enthusiastic all day long, that the match is about to begin. Game 1 of the grand finals between Microsoft and National Instruments. Can Microsoft continue their streak of 4-0s this season? Or is it going to be a little bit of the upset special?
I want to see Game 7, Sean.
Oh, that's right. That's right. A fan of esports. It's just more games, the merrier. And we're in game number 1. Let's hop into it. Looks like in the top right-hand corner, representing Team Microsoft, it is none other than the King of Kings himself, Memcopy. That's the paperclip icon.
It is awesome. I must say, what an awesome interface, Sean. It's the first time I see it like this, but it looks beautiful. What a fantastic little banner on top.
Oh, of course. Oh.
Nothing but the best.
Remember, we take fun very seriously. And down in the bottom left corner from Team National Instruments, it is Strelak. So in this particular circumstance, we see both players doing everything more or less straightforward, sending their overlords out towards the expansion of their enemy player. What do you think is the biggest thing they're going to be looking for at the start of this game?
I think above all that there is no early spawning pool, especially with these locations. It's definitely possible that one player is going to try to surprise the other one. It could also just be a macro-oriented build, but just make sure that you know what's going on. Make sure that your overlords will see Zerglings, or in some bizarre scenarios even see drones marching across the map. But that is not going to be the case. We see macro-oriented openings from both sides over here.
And I like this, you know, the fact that it's so easy to spot those early attack paths. I mean, even though it is relatively far open, I do kind of like the hatch first build, because, I mean, you might look at this area and say, oh, well, dude, this is so dangerously far away from the ramp, but I kind of prefer to get the hatch early so you can spread the creep to eventually defend. Ooh, and I love this. A very, very swift gas from Strelak.
Yeah, it can definitely intimidate your opponent, especially on this map. Like you said, it's not that easy to just get 1 or 2 queens on the ramp and keep your hatchery safe. And so the player with the quickest speedling upgrade will most likely be able to put on some pressure, at least take some map control, and maybe even like pretend to be really aggressive, but then actually tack up to something else. Or even maybe an early game roach push, because in the end of the day, as soon as the queens are out, it's a little more tricky for these overlords to truly scout what is going on.
Yeah, now this is, I'm not so sure how much I like this. I mean, it looks like Memcopy's moving really far into the main. And oh, I think he recognized at the last second. Ooh, it looks like he will be pulling back. Zergling speed is already coming up for our red player, Strelak. He seems to be playing very on point. It looks like Memcopy is very, very barely going to get out in time. But, I mean, these overlords are kind of hitting in redundant places. And in the early game, you've got to spread those overlords out to spot absolutely everything.
Yeah, this is still a little bit risky for our player from Microsoft over here, because his speed is going to be a solid 15 to 20 seconds later. And once again, Sean, like you already pointed out, this is not an easy map to get a good SimCity going or get a small wall off. Meanwhile, we have a small skirmish going on over here with these very few Zerglings, but Strelak doing an excellent job, not losing a single worker so far.
Yeah, I like this, the fact that he's, you know, getting active with those Zerglings right off the bat, trying not just to scout, but to apply a little bit of pressure. It can provide a good opportunity. Looks like Memcopy is trying to move his queens to the front. Right now it looks like it's, 17 drones. I think Strelak's actually just looking to do a straight-up cheese.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a semi-cheese. I guess this is something that he could still potential transition out of, but he has to do some damage with it. I love how he's hiding the Zerglings in the main base, Sean.
Uh-oh. This is always such an awesome strategy, because you can surprise your opponent with 50, 60 lings just all of a sudden.
And I think this really falls back to what we were mentioning earlier. The rush distance is not that far from Straylight's main base to Memcopy main base.
Yeah,
he's able to get
like
there.
Share third bases practically.
Well, here we go. He's going to review all of his links. So many Zerglings on the production tab. It's pretty much everything or nothing. And just now the Baneling Nest is going down as well.
Oh, and there Memcopy's going to spot it. Very late on his Baneling Nest. How many units does he have to defend? Just 2 queens? Oh no, this could be a devastating blow to Memcopy. He has blocked his ramp with those queens and now has managed to get them joined together.
They weren't there immediately, but in the end they were still there. But this is exactly what we mentioned as well. The Spinecrawler is not able to protect these queens. There are a lot of Zerglings on the way right now for Memcopy. If he survives, he's going to be in a good position. But there are so many Zerglings in his natural.
Nice reaction timing from Memcopy, trying to pull back to those drones as fast as possible, but he still has a significant drone lead and is defending as reasonably as he could be given the circumstances, and a nice surround by Memcopy.
More Zerglings streaming across the map though from our red Zerg player Straylight, who's looking to get a quick 1-0 over here. A couple of Banelings are morphing as well. If those Banelings hatch, then of course he will be more than fine. He's even using the drones right now. This might be a remarkable hold over here.
Oh my god, Straylight, who has gone all in, is about to run up against this Baneling burst at the front, and...
I have no idea what's happening over here, Sean. Well, actually, that's a fantastic job there by Memcopy, being able to keep all of his Banelings alive and still being able to survive as well. And he still is ahead in the work account. Even though it's not as much as before, he still has a minor lead.
Wow, and going right back to droning, I mean, Memcopy is looking to have just done a sensational defense, but keep in mind, Memcopy is now kind of low on queens, having 0.
Oh, that one Baneling. That's the money Baneling. That was a good detonation. That's exactly what he needed.
So now it's 26 drones to 16. More links still coming. I mean, in the production tab, it shows a Roach Warren now coming up for Straylight. Looks like he's going to transition. He's going to try to exploit the fact that there's not a lot of queens. So even though our blue player... Fantastic hits.
Yeah, this is going to be a little bit tricky, even though I really like the relentless aggression and he's doing a good job in executing everything so far, even though a few times a few too many Zerglings fell to a single Baneling, but that happens to the best of us, Sean. I'm not sure if the Roach Warren is the right follow-up though, but these Zerglings, they may be able to still pick off a few drones, and every drone he can take down right now, that might actually encourage Memcopy to drone even more, and that is exactly what Straight Up wants.
Yeah. I mean, this is a fantastic opportunity for a Microsoft Zerg player to show exactly why he has over an 80% win rate. I mean, he's really executing this extremely cleanly. It's a 19 drone Roach follow-up. Only has 2 in the gas. Might look like a mistake, but I don't even think you have the money to be able to support 2 drones in gas worth of Roaches. He's so light on econ.
I believe in the power of the Roach around, but Sean, but in this case, I don't know, man. These Roaches are gonna have to be very, very strong.
Well, I mean, it looks like right now these Zerglings out at the front continuing to get defrayed, and I think Memcopy might be doing a slight misread. I mean, generally you perceive your opponent to be pulling back, to be doing something a little bit more economically focused, but Straylight's like, nope, all in on Roaches, just continuing to build them, continuing to rally them across the map, looking very, very threatening at this point in time as we see, oh my god, 30 drones going up to 40 in a second.
Yeah, these Roaches are indeed a little bit intimidating. As we can see, Roaches trade very well against Zerglings, especially when they're complemented by Zerglings on its own as well. Straylight is going to knock on the front door of Memcopy right now, who does have that Spinecrawler. Banelings should not get the hits out that they're looking for. Is he still going to be able to make this work, Sean?
I mean, he's just continuing to send units in. It looks like there's a little bit of discoordination. Straylight is just... he's feeling desperate. He knows he needs to deal the damage fast. He's continuing to give the Banelings the runaround. He's getting a few shots off. Ugh. The Baneling connections are magnificent. Memcopy looks like he has just barely managed to take the lead in this long-term all-in.
It all depends on the Baneling connections though. If those Zerglings not all die to the same Banelings, and we see a lot of those Zerglings actually just running into the main base, I really like how relentless Straylight is with his aggression. Of course, you could say it might be a small commitment, but maybe those Zerglings in the main base will be able to achieve something.
I mean, those Zerglings, or those Roaches, could just barely not hit the Queen, so now it looks like Straylight is going to be trying to do his best to recoup. We're starting to see droning come in. I mean, Memcopy, who is dancing right on the edge of death for almost the entire start to the game, is barely managed to stabilize and is now about to jump into a huge lead as he's taken down the middle. His Spire is 70–80% done.
Yeah, I must say, that's actually really impressive that he was able to get a Spire done, despite being under so much early game aggression, being able to survive, stabilize, and still tagging
wow.
up.
And I mean, now doing a counterattack with Zerglings, this is just looking so solid for Memcopy. He is looking excellent. Drones are starting to have to be pulled off for Stray Light. Stray Light's going to be forced to build more units to try to hold this off. And there's going to be Spire units right around the corner. Another expansion for Memcopy. He's looking absolutely fantastic as we see the Lings continue to rally inward. Stray Light is doing his absolute best to defend. He's sending roaches, trying to hold his ramp. Banelings come out. Oh! Memcopy has landed so many juicing Baneling hits. It has just catapulted him forward in these Ling versus Baneling battles. And now we're seeing Stray Light with a shattered defense. It looks like Microsoft may very well win in a clean game number 1.
He's been very consistent throughout the entire season. Oh, look at all those drone shots!
Oh.
That couldn't... I think one drone there did not get damaged, everything else did. But in the end of the day, I guess the writing is on the wall. So many Zerglings. It was a fun game, though.
Memcopy with the endless all-in. I mean, just constantly building more Lings, more roaches, continuing to try to pressure at the front. But I'm really impressed with Memcopy's ability to defend there.
Yeah, he did a fantastic job. Like we said, he was under a relentless amount of aggression, and it seemed like he wasn't even shaking it that much, because normally you would be like, oh, he's really attacking me. I'm gonna get some spine crawlers. I'm gonna get myself some roaches too. He's just like, nah, one spine crawler, a few Zerglings, a Baneling here and there, and I'll just go up to Spire like a true pro. But he pulled it up.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that is one of the big things that separates, you know, the strong players from the excellent players, where strong players will be able to, you know, in a very stressful, not only defend, but recover and stabilize. But an excellent player, like what Memcopy was pulling off, does that all while progressing his own game plan. I mean, Memcopy more or less looked like he was never rushed after a while. The Spire popping out, and he apparently didn't even need it, just winning with Ling Baneling. Very nice play.
Yeah, he made a few drones. We were questioning a little bit. Perhaps he was making a few too many of them, but like you always said, Sean, there is never a bad time to build some workers.